According to the World Health Organization, 35% of women worldwide have experienced either physical or sexual violence in their lifetime. 30% of women who are in relationships have reportedly experienced some form of violence at the hands of their intimate partners. And globally, as many as 38% of femicide is committed by a male intimate partner. And as we mark the 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children, which is an international awareness-raising campaign, we ask, how effective are these campaigns in creating a non-violent South Africa? And joining us for Women in Focus is Professor Hlengiwe Mkhize from the Progressive Women's Movement and ANC Women's League Secretary General Miyoko Matuba and Dr. Tabile Mnisi, President of Restoration. Thank you for both of you for joining us. I think Miyoko will probably join us a little bit later, but let's just look at the effectiveness of these campaigns. Considering that South Africa adopted it in 1998, what kind of a difference has it made beyond just creating awareness, Professor Mkhize?
You see, for me, the campaigns are very aware. It's really the big impact awareness time to bring to the surface the invisible, whether it's pain or different patterns and forms of abuse. But of course, what is good with South Africa is that a decision was taken that it can no longer be only about these 16 days internationally. We should move towards 365 days. But this is an excellent opportunity to bring to the fore all aspects, especially of things that we have put in place, but they have not been effective, like legislation, difficulties in terms of running the courts and so on. Without these awareness campaigns, we will think we have a law, it's all in order. So it creates a platform for engagement.
Yes, but we do have programs and campaigns running in tandem. And you know, community forums, you have your mental, or rather SAGA, you know, that deal with mental issues, alcohol and substance abuse organizations, and yet we still see an increase, particularly when it comes to femicide, or rather violence against women and children. Is it society's inability to partake in these campaigns, or is it just that we've become desensitized to what goes on in the households?
I think we need also to take it further, not only campaign per se, but we can also involve the community. As the community, partially they are involved, and in these campaigns, some of the people, they avail themselves, and those who've been affected and those who are in that situation, some of them, they feel that if I go out and disclose what is happening, then I won't have this husband to maintain me. Others, they are protecting the children, because these things, they go even further. It's a family situation. It's also affecting the children. It's affecting the society as a whole, and your neighbors also. You know, there is this system of saying, if you are abused, or maybe you are raised in a home of violence, and then your mother will always say, no, you can't, you know, speak about this because you're dead, and we won't have food, we won't have. So it's a holistic approach. There's so much that it's linking to the very same.
So, but how do we fix it, Dr. Tabile? And I hear you that maybe culturally as well, and how girls are reared, or as a woman, you'd be told, Guti, there's certain things that you can't question your husband about, and you don't hang your dirty linen outside for anybody to know. So you essentially roll with the punches and whatever negative, toxic environment that you are in, because of that facade that you put up to society. And that's why the stigma and the shame will create that environment where violence is perpetuated.
You see, we have to, we're dealing with a deep-seated problem, patriarchy. Unfortunately, it has got many faces. At first value, a man might believe that I'm democratic, I'm progressive, but deep down at an unconscious level, the way he interacts with the woman, with girl children, it goes back to the mindset I'm the man, this is a boy, this is a girl, and start treating each person differently. It's a historical problem. It's deep-rooted in society. Time and again, it shows its ugly face, but also in our minds. We really believe men and women. Take, for instance, if, for instance, I see you running a program in a particular way. If it's a man, I can even name it differently. I would say, oh, that program is special.
Exactly.
The presenter is firm, decisive, and so on. But when it comes to Cindy, I would say, she's aggressive, she's controlling. You change the language,
yes,
depending whether it's a woman or a man, a gay, a girl or a boy.
Yeah.
So those are some of the problems. Even with new forms of problems like gays and lesbians, it's the same thing. If you are a woman, you are told, we will rape her to show her that she's not a man. But, they might do the same for boys, but it's not as prevalent as with women.
Okay, let's talk about, I beg your pardon, Dr. Tabil, active citizenry and participation, empowering victims and survivors, and breaking that whole veneer or sense of shame, that we can openly talk about these things and name the perpetrators and trust that the justice system will also come to the party in a sense with harsher convictions.
I think we need also to be vigilant and be assertive and say it as it is. Because if we keep on pretending that everything is well, and then that's why we are also having these long, painful situations, and especially when we talk to a boy child, because a boy child knows that I'm entitled and I'm a man, as the Prof has just mentioned. And also, as a society, we need now to restructure everything that has been happening. And I'm glad because our young people, they've taken upon themselves, and now they've sort of called a spade, and when they say this is wrong and this is how I feel, we take them for granted that, okay, they are being rude and they are disrespectful and all that. So we want people to be so submissive, even if it's not worth being, hiding and protecting. The main important thing, yes, campaigns are there, but programs that will be linked to these campaigns. For instance, education about self-esteem, education about how you need to portray yourself, how you behave, and how you deal with these anger. Because the most important thing that we are shelving away, it's the trauma that our children has undergone. To be rejected by your father, to be rejected by your mother, to be rejected by the society that you are raised by this single parent.
Exactly, and I mean with Statistics South Africa, and I know that this is not sensational news headlines, but it is an indictment on families, or rather society, primarily with the high levels of single mothers, absent fathers, and the fact that there isn't that nucleus of a family structure. And where do you go, though, in terms of getting that necessary support, the networks to deal with your issues so that it doesn't impact the next generation?
I suppose we have always tried to create the networks. We will not always live in a village. I always look at the structures in society, especially the most powerful ones. I mean, there is stats which is well known that more than 80% of Africans, they will go to a church of some kind. We have got different ones. But I'm telling you, I'm not a regular person. But you need to tell me how many times within a year you'll go to church and find that issues of violence prevention against women and children are tackled. So there are spaces where there are silences. And it doesn't mean it doesn't happen there. If it happens in that context, it will be dealt with quietly, privately, on the side, because it's usually between a powerful man and maybe a glamorous-looking woman, whatever it is. So there are those structures where we mustn't make them holy cows, and yet those are important
And that's
spaces.
the hypocrisy that I'm talking about.
Exactly.
And sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you, in the sense that as a woman, you have to continuously prove that your story is legit, because there'll be issues of whether your lifestyle is in a particular way. How do you carry yourself? What were you dressed like in that particular
Yes.
incident? And did you empower your man, or did he feel emasculated around you? So, the blame is primarily on the woman having to prove that a case of violence had taken place, or even rape.
Yes, and you know what you are raising, you are reminding me, we had a situation where the young lady was walking in Johannesburg. So a taxi guy started,
My comments. I remember that there was a protest,
and
a
we
miniskirt
had
protest.
to take that protest, and also the things that came up was, how did she dress? And she was dressed like this and this. And in the church, when she's mentioning the church, a church is a place where people are supposed to be protected, and a place of safety, and a place of empowerment, and where all these social ills are dealt with. But because the rape and the abuse and these self-centered people who to make you feel empty, they are also in that particular environment, in that church. But not all the churches. Other churches, yes, we do have programs that are helping the people, but also if the church members are also not trained to keep the confidentiality within the church, then you disclose and tell Mama Ruth, my husband, this. Tomorrow morning, you are afraid to go to church because the whole congregation knows about your situation.
When does the transformation happen? Because we have to evolve. We can't every year have this marking of the 16 days. We're part of a global village, and these are the programs that we're having, speaking to the converted, when we know that the socio-economic ills also creates a conducive environment for violent behavior. Are those people that are that life has dealt them a bad hand, that are indigent, poor, access is denied as well? Are those empowered enough, though?
No, especially with our justice system. Our justice system, it's not user-friendly. It's protecting those few people that they've got resources, those that they've got, because you can go and report, but the follow-up, the case disappear along the line. And also, when your man or your so high-profile person who has done wrong in you, or whether, let's take just a basic thing, maintenance. A woman just goes there to beg for maintenance. A person is earning more than you, and you are told that this person can only give you 1,000 rand. But the child's maintenance, it's far more than that 1,000 rand, and he is able to give you more. But because you are a woman, you are not entitled to this. They think you're going to use it for certain things. So if the law can protect us, yes, the law, they are trying their best, but not good enough. Not good enough to protect women, especially to make them feel the way they are supposed to be protected, treated with respect. If you go to Market Street, you have mama trying to gain the accessibility of those maintenance and the age barrier again. When the child has reached a certain age, and then you can't. People who are successful, it's people who can manage to go to High Court. What's name?
So you're saying that two things that are an enemy of a free, fair, non-sexist, non-violent society is one, misogyny, or rather patriarchy and misogyny, in that women generally are still oppressed, be it in the workspace or be it in society. The discrimination still exists, and direct attack on women is still rife.
You see, you earlier raised the question of transformation. How will it stop, when and where? The United Nations, they've even come up with the UN Women. One of the things they focused on this year in particular, with this 16 days, was the issue of resource mobilization. The question is, what resources? Is it monetary, skills, cultural teachings, and so on? But I've been thinking a lot that also we shouldn't underestimate the importance of female leadership. Take, for instance, in a company, in a workplace, there are also high levels of violence against women, especially young women who are climbing, looking for opportunities and positions, and some are desperate. Some might be single mothers, some are just ambitious, want to get there. And they see this layer of men and think, for me to get there, I have to be close to some of them. With women, let's say CEOs or directors were women, there will be stringent policies to ensure that people who cross the line, abuse women in the process, they are held accountable, but also immediately. You know, this one case which is discussed in a workplace once in 5 years and that's it, it doesn't take the struggle forward. At all levels, be it in politics or whatever. I think we, maybe South African women, we haven't been vocal enough about saying women have a potential of bringing different values and different insights, especially in ensuring the protection of women and children. The reason why being, because the incidence and the levels of it, they are too high for us to normalize, tolerate it, live with. You can take any structure, and look at us and you realize that we have to take extraordinary measures.
I want to talk about
the campaign.
Exactly, the programs. Now this theme is Count Me In. Previously it had been Don't Turn a Blind Eye, participate, do something. But, people have a choice in what they do in their free time or even in how they conduct themselves within relationships. So if they are abusive and nobody speaks about it, it will continue undeterred. So with the activism that you're calling for, what are members of society meant to do without having to encroach on somebody else's rights of privacy, rights of not wanting to disclose, etc.? What do we do?
Maybe if I can just come in quickly.
Okay.
At a local level, you need to have structures which will immediately pick up issues and be able to act in ways which will send a clear message that society won't turn a blind eye. Take, for instance, in a street, a young woman is sexually assaulted, the common one, by a known person. Okay? Traditionally, there will be street committees, not historically in the past when we had political violence. But today, the family of that young woman, they are the ones who really have to run and look for the nearest police station. There are transportation issues, and when they get there, the police station itself will be having issues of resources, the cars, the cellular phone. You might have tried to phone many times. So we need more localized structures, but make sure they are adequately resourced. So, because the whole idea is not to have them as that we're not ticking the box, but we want to enter the machinery that is effective at a faster rate with outcomes.
But in the immediate, sorry, Dr. Tabile, the whole thing around communities where there's drug infestation, drug lords and peddlers roam the streets, there is no sense of security for many vulnerable young girls, women, and even boys for that matter. How do we empower societies like that, where they themselves are victimized, they are threatened, they are fearful of coming forward, and then the violence continues?
Yes, it's a fact, but also we need to take precautions. We cannot just leave it as it is and say, okay, the environment is not conducive. Again, the very same people who are being affected by these, there is a scenario that one of the pastors was killed by these drug lords and all that because they took it upon themselves and went to say, no, enough is enough about these drugs. So we need to mobilize the area, the group, people who will be coordinating, because each and every group, each and every area, you do have the CPS and the counselors and all that. Also, the grannies, the grannies these days, they've taken upon themselves, they've got this escorting, taking your grandchild to the car of these taxis that are picking girls and boys. And also, they are monitoring this in and out of children because it's where it starts. And also these shops that are at the corners. I was listening to another kid. This child was abused in the containers that are selling. So we need to take more action about knowing what is happening there. Like before we knew that next door Gababumgat, the other next door Gababat, you'll just mentioning them by names and the children of that particular. These things of hiding in this certain group of people, it's not working.
Where are the
It's not
social
helping.
workers, though? Where's the Department of Women and Children? Where are, as you were saying, the churches? Where is that community, or a sense of community that cares and that ensures that, everybody can thrive in a safe environment?
You know, before democracy, we were not in government. Issues of violence were there. But this thing of resource mobilization, today I think we can do better, but it means civil society structures like NGOs, instead of those NGOs closing down on a daily basis because of resources, we have to ensure who is doing what. Typical of the value chain. There will be those who go around creating awareness. There are those who help with information, investigations, capture, take issues, take to the police station. There are those who work with the police station to check what happened. This person was detained because of this. Why did he get bail? Was the family warned? And there will be those who will be doing court support and restoration of those who have been violated. But it's about resource mobilization and the coordination, integration of the program for violence prevention.
All right, before we go, if we can just give practical examples of what people can do that find themselves in that unfortunate toxic space and they feel there is no way out. Contact numbers, programs, who do you reach out to first to get yourself out of that cesspit of despair and helplessness?
You can reach out to the police, the nearest police station, 111. They are the most active people so far that we know. But there are also certain police stations in the areas. If you've got their direct numbers, yes, they always respond. But even though sometimes they come after hours, but the most important thing is for you as neighbors, have your neighbors' numbers and communicate. When you hear something that you don't understand, you say, are you aware of this? There's something this. And then you have these people who are looking after the areas like, I don't know, they call them the youth with ambition and youth that will always monitor and all that. Yes, but there are spaces, the thing that she just mentioned about the NGOs. NGOs, they are doing the spade work on the ground, but resources, it's a challenge. And sometimes, as she mentioned, that they close down every day, but they don't have the phones, the whatever. But we cannot leave that as an excuse. We need to take it upon ourselves and do something.
All right, we'll have all those contact numbers on our website. I have to thank you both ladies for coming in to speak about the 16 days of activism and also victim empowerment, and to create awareness around society that it is absolutely imperative that each and every one of us care enough for the safety of those that are vulnerable. Let us know what you think on social media, or you can also just live stream with us on our website. We take a quick ad break. We'll see you shortly.